it was absolutely great. Love the people, love the company. So then, of course, we had the market crash, and then in 2010, October of 2010, I got I was in the office in the morning, and my manager, a different manager at the time, because I moved different manager, got hey, you got a minute? I'm like, sure, yeah, absolutely. Went in his office, and I'll never forget this. Went in his office, and one of the women from HR was in there who I knew well, and we had some layoffs because, of course, after the market crash, and we were repositioning businesses and all this kind of thing. So, I just remember the start of the conversation. Well, we're having to make some changes. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I figured they were going to tell me sort of the next team that might be laid off or restructuring. And the last thing honestly I remember hearing was, well, your position's been eliminated. And the rest of it was that, the Charlie Brown teacher, like, that's all I can hear. The rest of it, they were talking, I don't know what they're saying. So, but here, unlike the first role I had at the law firm that I really didn't love at all, I love this job. I love these people. And I was absolutely devastated. And this time, when I was at the law firm, I was just starting out. I had an apartment, living with my husband now, boyfriend at the time, but, I had rent, I had an apartment. But now I had a house, I had car payment, it's a whole different world. And so I remember, again, I was home this time, I'm driving home, Brian, devastated that, I lost this job. And again, sort of the chutes and ladders. Wow, I never thought I would have left. I never thought, but it happens. But it taught me that, we are all stronger than we think we are. These things happen, and you know what? The sun came up the next day. I got, and the thing was, they were it's a great company. They gave me a very generous severance package, and I ended up going back to that company. So about 6 months later, a woman who I had worked with, she was a senior level woman at the company. I worked with her, she was in the sales and marketing side of the house, and I worked with her a little bit, not that closely. So she had called me up, and she said, there's this new team that they're starting on the legal side of the house at the company, and, it's patent law, and, there's some litigation, and so we're not sure where it's going to go, but she's like, I think you should think about it. It's, I said to her, listen, nothing about that sounds fun. Like, nothing about that sounds interesting. You must be crazy. What are you calling me for, thinking I would want to go back to do patent law, of all things? The one thing worse than I think tax law is patent law. I don't know, So she's like, no, trust me. She said, just trust me. I think, this would be your opportunity to create this new team. It's going to be a new team, a new department, and really, drive the direction. So I thought about it. I took her advice, and I went back into the company. And I'm glad I did, because I did. I had the opportunity to, again, I knew nothing about patent law, and I told her that. But, I learned tax law. I went to law school. I could learn patent law, which I did. And I also saw an opportunity to, because I still miss that sales and marketing side of the house. I love being on that side of the house. So I saw a way to sort of start to connect the dots with the patent law connected to trademark law, which is the logos and all of that kind of stuff. So I started taking on that work. And also, with my manager, again, managers are so important at critical points in our career. The manager I had, had said, it's like, well, what do you want this role to be? Because it's a new team. It's new. We have no framework for it, no blueprint for this. So, what do you want it to be? So I started to, I told them what I wanted to get back to. So I was able to, start to work on some of the sponsorship work, because that was just an area that no one attorney was focusing on. So in this company that I worked for, I had a ton of sponsorships, the Boston Red Sox, the Boston Marathon, all of this. So I got to work on that stuff. And, he sent me to Harvard's program on negotiation, which was great, because now I got to go in and negotiate these contracts for the sponsorships, with Major League Baseball, with agents of actors and professional sports players and Hollywood producers. So, again, taking that chance on what sounded like one of the most boring jobs ever, you just, again, you want to make sure you're always open to those opportunities and to those chances. And also, as women, we also want to be the type of woman, I would think about it, we all sit on the shoulder of someone who came before us, of women who came before us, right? So you have a choice. Do I just sit on that shoulder, or do I help bring up other women? And so and her name is Karen, I'll never forget. So, she took that chance. She didn't need to try and bring me back into the organization. It had nothing to do with the department she was working in. But I trusted her, and, we've since remained great friends, and she's since given me, great advice. She's no longer with that company, she's with another company. But it turned me, got me back into a company I love, but then also set me on a different career path. So this is sort of where the chutes and ladders. I was no longer in tax law, and a whole new field, but it was exciting to be able to do this type of work. And then it also got me closer, so that sponsorship work got me closer to working with the brand team in this organization. And so as I started working on that, also this was probably about 2011 now, the marketing and brand team wanted to get on social media. I mean, it seems crazy right now, like why wouldn't you be on social media? But back in 2011, and for an insurance company, that was a big thing to get on Facebook and all of that. I can tell you all the executives, are they crazy? No, we don't want to be anywhere near Facebook or any of that. We're an insurance company. No one typically likes insurance companies much anyways. We don't need to give them another avenue to talk about. So, that's where, again, I had to literally learn about Facebook and social media and work with that team. And now, because of my role, I was in the legal department, but I was building this relationship with our brand team. I was able to be sort of that go-between to tell the executives and the lawyers, listen, the sky will not fall if we let them do Facebook and these other accounts. And so again, opened a whole another world for me in this marketing law. Now there's this whole area of marketing law, right? So back then, there really wasn't a discipline of marketing law. But so now that's, it helped me direct to that path, which I totally, was not the path I originally set out on. And at the same time that I was working with this brand team and starting to build the relationship with them, they hired a new chief marketing officer. This woman, Barb, awesome. She doesn't work there anymore, but she was from a digital agency. And when she came in that company, that 150-year-old insurance company, like the doors flew open, it was just like a breath of fresh air, new energy, and wanting to do so much with sponsorship and social media and digital media. So again, now that I was already in with that brand team, I got to do so much exciting stuff. That again, I think back to that conversation I had with Karen about the patent law job and thinking how horrible that would be. And now here I am getting to do work with, some athletes, and we worked on the Boston Marathon, and that's probably one of the best opportunities I had working with that organization, to be able to work on the Boston Marathon. And that's sort of another, as you think of moments in time that really shape your life and how you think, I moved to Boston in 1997 until 2018. Every single year, I attended the Boston Marathon. So in April, big event in Boston. It's a great Monday. It's just usually a big party. You see a Red Sox game, and you stand around and watch the runners, and you cheer them on. And I would always be at the finish line area on Boylston Street every year, same spot. The one year I did not go to that Boston Marathon in all those years because I had been working on sponsorship. We'd been working long hours. And it was an unusually amazing weather weekend because April in Boston, you never know. And it was an amazing weather weekend. So my husband and I went up to Maine, up to the beach for the weekend. And that Monday was when they had the Boston Marathon bombing. And I have no doubt I would have been right there where the two bombs had been set on Boylston Street. But for whatever reason, we didn't go to the Boston Marathon. But my office was right around the block from real close to where it all went down. And we lived close enough to the city that we were in lockdown and we were part of it. And, again, similar to the 9/11, it's an event that just shapes you. And as you think of your professional life and how you make decisions, it helps put things in perspective, right? And that's, as I work with my team and as I work with anyone I mentor, I always try to impress upon people that we have to think about that. We have to think about what's really most important. As we direct our career moves. And that really helped me, that thinking helped shape what really brought me to Colonial Life and Unum is, so, I was at insurance company's John Hancock, but I was there until, I left in 2018. And I had been working towards, my goal was to get into the brand department. It was to move from legal to brand at that company. And that's what I was working toward. The CMO was a tremendous advocate for me. And we were working towards that. And there's some changes in the legal department that, at a certain point, it became clear that that wasn't going to be possible, that my manager at the time just was not going to support it. And it also made me think of advice that I had gotten from that same Karen that brought me back to John Hancock. And she said, you always have to have an advocate in the room. Back then, decisions got made around the table and in person, but now, of course, it's all virtual and Teams meetings and all of that. But whenever decisions are made about you, you want to make sure you have an advocate in the conversation to advocate for you. As you're advocating for yourself, you always want to make sure you have an advocate. And, because if you don't, then you really want to reassess, are you in the right place? Like, if no one's advocating for me, is this where I should be? And as much as I love the organization, I've been there 13 years. I love the people I worked with. I love the work I did. I got to do some exciting stuff. When it became clear that I no longer had that advocate when decisions were being made about me, then it was time to go. And it was a tough decision to make, and so just so happened, no sooner did I make that decision that this opportunity at Colonial Life, Unum, came up, and it was in the legal department. So it wasn't this opportunity where I am now, but it was a similar type situation, right? It was the new role. We have no idea what's going to happen with it. We've never had an attorney just dedicated to marketing and communications, but we'd like you to, come in and do that. And so I said, all right, we'll land in South Carolina, so, get even better. So took on that role. And so I joined in 2018. And, one thing that really was different for me in this organization than where I came from is the amount of senior women that I saw. When I moved into my role, my manager in the legal department was a woman. The general counsel is a woman. She's still staying general counsel. And right now, the role I'm in now, our EVP is a woman, and they are all very strong, very amazing women that I've had support from the minute I got there, because I started to have the conversations about, okay, again, thinking I need to be my own advocate. How do I get where I want to be? Ultimately, I want to be in brand. And they didn't have a brand team then. They had the marketing team, but they focused on product and services marketing. How do we get there? So they actually had a women's leadership program that I attended that was fantastic. And it was really focused on, they had outside speakers come in, and it really focused on taking stock of where you are and what energizes you. What's your passion, and how do you get there? And the first step in getting there is putting it out to the universe, right? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Because people don't know until you tell them. So that was the first step. I honestly had conversations with anyone and everyone that would listen to me then. And everyone would. It was great. Everyone would, 15 minutes. Everyone's got 15 minutes, right? Everyone's got to eat. Everyone will have coffee or whatever. And so then it just so happened that as part of, some restructuring, they created a new team. And it wasn't because of me, but they created a corporate brand and reputation team. And I had all these conversations, with folks, and the manager that I currently have, I was his counsel, lawyer, I was a lawyer for corporate communications. I interviewed for the role. It wasn't anything that I, sort of got handed. I interviewed for it. And I joked because it was an internal role, and I think I had 12 interviews for it. But sometimes it's just the way things go. But so I'm in this spot, and so now I head up this corporate brand and reputation team. So I'm out of legal. I joke that I'm either a recovering lawyer or a retired lawyer, whichever. But now I'm on the creative side of the house, and I love it. And I manage a team. Some of my team is here, so I know a lot of them are on virtual as well. And now sort of I joke with my team often and others. I'm in sort of the back nine of my career now, and what energizes me the most is really watching my team And because some of the, I'm a mix on my team. Some are earlier in their career than others, and especially for those earlier in their careers, I love to see them when things energize them. And when they do things, because our team, this team was the same. There's no blueprint for it, for this new corporate brand and reputation team. We have some things we want to do, but there's no, sort of just unleashed us on it. And I haven't had my team, and my team's grown, which is amazing. But it's so great to see when things click especially for the women in my team. But I also, so for the first year, I had an all-women team, which was fantastic, and then I got to grow, I got the green light to hire some more people. And, so I was like, wow, we have to hire, and a lot of the, for one of the roles in particular, there were only two men, it was just men that applied. I'm going to break up the dynamic by hiring men, and one of them is in this room. But, so it just shows the importance of not only as women, supporting women, but it's having allies too. And the two men that are on my team are just amazing allies for all the women on my team. And the fact that they're here, one of them's here today to support me. And, it just says a lot. And as you think about, again, where you go in your careers and who you're working with and who you put on your teams, again, I go back to that, what energizes you? What is going to bring the energy in the room up versus down? And you want to think about that. And as we, go along in our careers and, have different priorities and have different things that happen. And, those are the things you want to think about. What's most important to you? Where do you want to be? What energizes you? And then, so, it's not only as we think about our careers, it's not a vacuum, just what happens in the office. We also have to think about, what I've learned over the years, and it's become more important to me in the past, the recent years, is how important personal connections are, whether it's inside or outside of the office. I know I have a great group of friends, both up in the north and down here. I have friends that I've had since kindergarten. We still stay in touch. One of them's coming down to visit next week. And I have high school friends, and I have friends, I play tennis. So I have a group of tennis friends in Boston that we still keep in touch. And, these were women. And then, down here in South Carolina, I have a great group of women. Most of them might be from tennis. I have my college roommates. And those networks become so much more important. Everyone's so busy. We're all busy. I don't have children, so I can only imagine how much busier I'd be, a job and kids. But, people are taking care of parents, children, jobs. And, I have friends that are running businesses, all kinds of things. But you want to make time for those personal connections because you need them. We need them. Whether it's just, you're venting about something or, those connections get it. And they will help you as you go along and have the ups and downs in your careers or your personal life. And you just don't want to, it's so easy to just be so busy that you lose those or you don't get together as often as you should. I know when I moved back down here, my college roommates were like, oh, it's great, we're all back together, but everyone's busy. So it was amazing. We're all in Lexington. It was so hard we couldn't get together. And so probably about a year ago, we started, we made it a pact that every month we would get together. We would just make time because I'm also at the point of my life where my friends are starting to lose their, just the age I got, friends are starting to lose parents. We lost my father-in-law last year. And so again, it just brings it home, and it's all about perspective. And that's what I've learned. And, what I love about where I am now is that I'm able to have that perspective, that work-life balance. And it's so important. And that's what, with the chutes and ladders, what I've learned is because I've seen when I've had that chute, when I've gone down, and that ultimately, you have to do what's right for you, what feels best for you. Because at the end of the day, jobs are jobs, obviously we have to pay our bills, we have to, but you really want to make sure that, at the end of the day, you're happy with where you are and where you're going. And again, as I said, about being your own advocate, and then surrounding yourself with folks that will be advocates for you, that will help energize you. that will, that won't drain you. That's what, it's funny, when I talk to my team and I talk to them about, sort of, when we do our reviews, our PX and performance reviews, I say, what energizes you about what you're doing and what drains you? Because ultimately you want to try and do less of what drains you and more of what energizes you. And then, also as I talked about helping other women. So I've also, as I've gotten to this point in my career, learned how much more important it is to make sure that I'm helping other women get to where I am, or get to where they want to be now, right? Get to where they feel most passionate about, where they need to go. And it's so hard. It can be, and you think, especially those earlier in their career, like, when I started out, again, when I lost that first legal job, I thought, well, then I just don't have what it takes to be a lawyer. I couldn't deal with couldn't survive this first legal job. How am I ever going to make it as a lawyer? And this was the only thing I ever wanted to do. And now I look back and I can laugh on it, because it's like, it was such a blip on my, on the radar screen in my life and my career. But, at the times when that happened, and when I was let go from John Hancock, it was women who reached out to me and said, you know what, if someone come up tomorrow, it'll be fine. And one day you look back and sort of laugh at this, and I do. And I can now. But so it's important that we're there for the younger women. And it's also important that we help bring them along, because they don't always have, I think managers have gotten tremendously better, but, it's not always easy, and people don't always have the best managers. So it's important that for us to, if we see that, really help those women and help bring them along and help, whatever we can do to let them know we've been there. Everyone's been there, right? It's tough, but we can make it through it. And now really it's what's next, and for me, what's next is, being here with United Way and as the chair of Women in Philanthropy to try and give back. Before I left Boston, I was the chair of the Women in Philanthropy up in Boston, and I loved it. And so as soon as I came down here, I made sure that I reached out and got involved. But it's also, what else can we be doing? Whether it's, women's groups within our organization, or if it's nonprofits or other ways. And so for me, that's really, at this point in my career, where I really want to spend, a lot of my time is helping to bring along sort of that next generation. Because I remember all the women who helped bring me along in my career. And it's just so important. So I know I've been talking for a long time. So are there any questions? I don't know. Are there any questions or? Amanda always has questions, and Amanda is one of my team members. So
my manager, so I have to behave. No, Jen, you did talk about advocates, and I do agree with that. How do you navigate the water when your manager is not your advocate, but you still love your role in your job? So how do you navigate not having your manager be an advocate, but you want to stay there?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Which is not the case, but.
Asking for a friend. I can always count on Amanda. No, that's a great one. And that's really where you have to be your own advocate. At the end of the day, you have to be your own advocate, because I was in that position where I had tremendous advocates, right? I had folks who wanted me to be in that role I wanted to be in. I was working towards that role. I would never let that happen. Never. And then it became clear that my manager just wasn't going to let that happen for whatever reason, and at a certain point, you have to make the decision, what's most important to me, because I could easily stay there, I was paid well, they have good benefits, I love my job, I got to do great stuff. But at the end of the day, that wasn't what I wanted for my future. That wasn't what I ultimately wanted, and there are some folks who can, that's fine, they can stay, just, they're happy with, their, they can be money, they're, you have to really look inside yourself and think, and make a decision on what's most important to you. Because I left money on the table, and I left, because these big companies, there's all these different incentives to stay and all of that. So there's a lot of factors to think about. But ultimately, it's what you really want, because you have to live, it's your life every day. It's not your boss's life, it's not your manager's, or your colleagues. They can help you as much as they can. And I would ask for everyone to be advocates for coworkers. And, but then you have to live, it's your life. So if it's not going where you want it to go, and you've tried everything, and I hate to, I never want to be an advocate for leaving a company, especially if you're talking about our company. But that's what I had to do. And I had a ton of advocates. I did, it just ultimately that it wasn't the right one. So, but that's not the case now, because I think my boss maybe listened to this presentation, and I have a tremendous advocate now. So I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
What a tremendous journey.
Thank you.
Along your journey, how did diversity take a role in the different positions that you were in?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So the question was, I'm not sure, based on the folks on the phone, how did diversity play a role in my journey? So I'm glad you asked that. And I probably, I should have talked a little bit more about that. But, when I was in law school, and it was quite a time ago, I've been out of law school now 21 years, so dating myself, but I was mostly men in law school, and when I got out of law school, believe it or not, I practiced my first year, I was in litigation, and women had to wear skirt suits to court. You couldn't wear pantsuits. I mean, again, it's not ages ago, 21 years ago. And it was, most of the lawyers in my firm were men. My manager, the partner that, drove me nuts is a man. And then, I went into insurance and financial services. It was mostly men, right? And it was mostly white men. It was Boston, it was mostly white men. It was what it was. But I was lucky in that my manager, when I first started at Hancock, he was tremendous, and he was a tremendous sponsor and advocate for me. So, he was an ally, and there were, of the, minority of women that were there, I was lucky that one of them, helped me out when I needed it, when the one that had me come back. It's changed, when I've been in insurance now 15, 16 years, I think, or maybe more than that. And we've seen more diversity in insurance. And I know in our organization, Colonial Life, I see personally more diversity than I had in Boston. But, Boston, we only had the one office in Boston, whereas with Colonial Life, we actually have offices in Columbia, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Portland, Maine. So we have a diversity of thought, we have a diversity of experience, and we have a more cultural diverse group. There's more to be done for sure in the space. But that definitely shaped it, because, when you're in a man's world, you have to find yourself. That's another thing I learned, is that, it's too easy to try and be like the guys, but that's not the answer. You have to be yourself and find yourself and find your voice. And that was one of the lessons, I learned. And again, I was lucky and thankful that I had those folks that were advocates for me and sponsors for me. And they were, in the early part of my career, they were men. And that doesn't always happen, right? So, and that's why now, as, one of the things I'm very passionate about is, as women, we can't always count on having those men as allies, although we should be able to, but you can't always count on that. So as we are women working with our colleagues and our friends, and we have to be those advocates for them and really have that voice when other people may not have their back. Does that make sense? Does that answer? Is that good?
Yeah.
Question. So it seems like as you were on your kind of Chiefs and Ladders journey in your career, one of the themes that always worked in your favor was growing your network. That's how you get your advocates, right? That's how you meet people that can open doors for you. What advice would you give folks to learn how to grow their network effectively?
Sure. So the question was, through my journey, it was important to grow my network and advice to grow your network. Absolutely. Your network is so important. And I remember when I was coming out of law school and looking for a job, it was all about networking. And I had never networked before. I hated it. Absolutely hated the whole, emailing and when we get together for lunch or whatever. And I had a professor that I had coffee with, and he's like, well, everyone has to eat. So, it shouldn't be that hard. Ask them. And if they say no, so what? And so, I did it by force because I had to. I graduated law school and I didn't have a job. Jobs are hard to get. So you had to pound the pavement. And, it's not necessarily an easy skill, but it's one you can build. But that's also why it's so important to really keep our personal networks, stay connected with them. I play tennis, so that sometimes is a built-in network. I have some tremendous friends here in the South Carolina area that play tennis, and they're business owners. They work for big companies here, and so that helps with the networking. But really, it's take every opportunity to network because you just never know who's going to be that advocate, or and that was one of the things I learned when I had been let go from John Hancock. I was surprised. You sort of learn who's there for you, right? So I was surprised that some of the folks who reached out, because I didn't necessarily thought they would have reached out. And I was also surprised with some of the folks who didn't reach out. It was disappointing because you thought they would reach out. So, so build that network and be that person that reaches out. We always sort of think, oh, I feel bad, it's awkward. From someone who's been there, be the bigger person and reach out. Is there anything I can do? Is there, and take advantage of, organizations like United Way, Philanthropy, companies now have women's networks, hobbies, sports, anything you can do to build that network, because oftentimes that's when folks, get opportunities. It's like, oh, you're looking for that? I just heard about, you make that connection. And people are much more likely to hire someone or recommend someone when they have that connection. So that's a great question and a great point. Networks are so, so important. And I still maintain my network, in the Boston area. And because I know when we're looking for talent, we have an office in Portland, Maine. I reach out to my network in the Boston area to see if anyone knows of anyone. With LinkedIn, it's so much easier. We didn't have LinkedIn I'm sounding so old. When I got to law school, we did not have LinkedIn. So literally, and I laughed because I remember when I applied for all my jobs out of law school, it was literally you sent a letter, right? So you sent a letter, a cover letter with your resume and a stamp, typed up. And for the longest time, I'd gotten, you send out all these letters and of course you get all these rejections. For a long time, my husband used to laugh at me. I kept the folder of all the letters, all the rejection letters I got back. And it was, here I am, all these years later, so what? But at that time, you're just so tunnel vision. What am I going to do? And so I guess if you take nothing from what I said today, we are all stronger than we think. And what we think is a big thing years from now, why did I even waste some smudge mascara on that, right? Come on. Any other questions?
Yeah. A virtual question from a former USC classmate. She says, how did you reestablish connections that maybe lapsed during or throughout COVID?
It's funny. I never really lost connection during COVID. And some of the connections got stronger. So we, it's interesting. COVID down in South Carolina was a lot different than COVID for my friends in Boston. So Boston was shut down a lot longer than down here. I can tell you that. But thanks to Teams and Zoom and all of that, I still every year, I think in March or something on Facebook, you get your Facebook memories. And, we were maybe 2 weeks after things shut down and my tennis group of friends, I mean, it had been 2 weeks and we couldn't believe we hadn't seen each other. So we did a Zoom happy hour, you know, and so we kept in touch. And again, it's what's important to you. And you have to make sure you do it. And I think COVID, just like those other, like 9/11 and the Boston Marathon, COVID also was one of those points in time that made me reassess what's important. And so for my college roommates, and Cynthia was not one of my roommates, but we were near each other in the dorm. We said, this is crazy. We need to be getting together more often once COVID, they need to get out. So now we make sure we get together. So I know some people may have lost touch during COVID. Thankfully for me, that just wasn't, we hated not seeing each other in person. That was tough. So when we finally did, it was like, oh my God, so good to see you. But again, down here, better or worse, we weren't out of touch as long as I know my friends up in the Northeast were out of touch. So good question, Cynthia. Thank you. Any other questions in here or virtually? Oh, back there.
What would you say would be some of the characteristics of an advocate? And also, how did you start becoming an advocate to others?
So question, what are some of the characteristics of being an advocate? You know, it's one of those, when you start in your career, you don't think you have much of a voice, right? When you're new in a firm or new in a company or new in a role, you kind of, I don't know, you know, that I have much of a voice. So you learn from, I've had great managers and I've had terrible managers and all the way in between. So you just know as you progress in your career, what has helped you, and you have to make that decision. So again, like I said earlier, you know, we're sitting on the shoulders of women who came before us. Are you just going to sit there, or you know, are you going to help other women bring them up? So it's sort of the same thing. Like you know, for you, what's been a good advocate, what's helped you, who's helped you, how best people have helped you. So then it's up to you to decide, are you going to be that person for others? And it's really just listening, you know, observing. Like I do that all the time. I observe what's going on, and you know, I think to myself things, and I'm not shy. Another thing with me, I'll say something to someone. Hey, I noticed that. Are you okay with that? You know, you want me to say anything? You just, again, don't be afraid to be nosy or to be, you know, because that may be someone that could really use your help. So just don't be afraid to get in there. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, I really like how you followed your passion. Have you ever thought about maybe going on your own? We get mocked a lot for, 9 to 5 by people who freelance or have their own company. So I kind of see how you always, work this long hours and have depended on managers. Have you thought about maybe starting your own company or practice or being a consultant so you don't have to follow somebody's schedule or look for an advocate, just do it on your own?
Sure. So the question was, have I thought about going out on my own, so I didn't have to work on someone else's schedule and 9 to 5 and all that? No, I haven't, only because I've gotten to a place, to the credit of, and again, this isn't a commercial for my employer, but to the credit of where I am and what's important to me, and my team will tell you, 2 of them are in the room, they know my weekends are either tennis, if it's the fall, it's Carolina football, Hilton Head, I have a work-life balance. That's important to me. That's, ultimate important to me. It's important to my manager. It's important to my team, and my team knows that their work life is important to me. So that's part of, as you think of your career, thinking, what's important to you. Because if I didn't have the work-life balance that I wanted or that I want, I wouldn't be in the role I'm in, or, but I think I'd have to do, when you go out on your own, that's hard work. I mean, that's probably more than 9 to 5. I have friends who own businesses. So no, I genuinely am at a place in my career that I love where I'm at. I love the team I'm with. And, again, I joke, I'm in the back 9 of my career. So I'm good. I'm good where I am. Other questions? I think we're going to spend time anyway.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give Jen a round of applause? Stick around for a few minutes, so if you do have a question for her, then you can snag her then. So, before we close out, I don't know about you guys, but I got a couple of gems. Did you guys find some gems today? I'm gonna share some, so take stock of where you are and what excites you. Do you sit on the shoulders of other women, or do you bring other women up? And then this one, I must admit, it'll stick with you for a minute. So I hope all of you sit with it tonight. But what moment in time has shaped your life? When you really think about that. So I hope all of you sit with that later tonight. But for those of you that don't know, Women in Philanthropy just celebrated our 20 years this past May. And we're really looking at how with Women in Philanthropy is everyone. And we really want you to join us and take a seat at that table. We're rebuilding what that blueprint for us is. And our hope is that more women like you, that you like the events that we have, you see yourself and you see a place at the table here. So it's truly the place to be. For so many reasons, like today, the professional development that you get, service to women and children, service to your community, networking, there's tons of opportunities to network. So let's have coffee, let's have lunch, let's talk about what excites you. Let's bring more women up, and I hope you'll do it alongside us. So thank you so much for joining us for lunch. Please take extra, give it to a friend that you love for. Take something, drop off, swing by mom, dad, or child, drop them off a snack. I'm sure they'll be thankful. But again, we can't do this without you. So thank you for sharing this, and we will let us help you. Have a good